in Afghanistan, I was at a remote outpost called Restrepo. Okay, it was a 30-man position.
Yeah.
On this ridge. We were in contact in combat almost every day. There was no internet. There was no communication with the outside world. For the first 3 months, there was no electricity. The guys, we slept in the dirt, shoulder to shoulder, behind sandbags, and woke up and you got shot at, right? And the guys were out there. It was all men. It was 2nd Platoon Battle Company, the 173rd Airborne. They ate MREs, which are these just ghastly meals in a plastic bag, right? MREs for 15 straight months, right? They were out there for 15 months. And I was out there for quite a lot of it with them. And I made a film called Restrepo. And after it was all over, there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of whatever. It was complicated coming home, right? But after it was all over, one by one, the guy, and I got very close to these guys. I'm still close to many of them. They said, the strangest thing, Sebastian, we all miss it. We want to go back there, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, wow. That war really damaged you, didn't it? Because that place sucked. And now you want to go back there. Like,
and they hated it in the moment, too, right? No one was saying, I love this. Well, it's happening.
No, they liked combat a lot, right? And they had a good time out there in a lot of different ways. But they missed their girlfriends. They missed women in general. They missed cars. They missed televisions. They missed food. They missed shower. You know, with how long is the list of things they missed, right? And but they wanted to go back. And suddenly I remembered I had a sort of surrogate uncle who was Native American. Very fortunate to meet this guy. And I was like 18 when I met him, and he was a part of my life, until he died, 15 years later. And his name was Ellis. And I remember him saying to me, he grew up out west. I think he was Sioux and Apache. And I remember him saying to me, Sebastian, all throughout the history of this, and this was his language. So all throughout the history of this country, Sebastian, the white people were always running off to join us Indians. And us Indians, we never ran off to join the white people. And I was like, Ellis, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was just maybe a story, right? So then I did some research. I was like, wow, it was true. Like Benjamin Franklin, all these people of the day were really concerned. Like, how is it that this heathen society is attractive to good Christians? Right? And not the other way around. We have, the wagon, we have the stove, we have the this, the that. How can the savages, as they called them, not want to be part of us? And it made me think of the guys wanting to go back to Restrepo. And I realized, as a former anthropologist, everyone wants to be part of a cohesive group. That's wired into our DNA. Talk about adaptive, right? Talk about evolution. It's wired into our DNA. We are social primates. And if you're not part of a close group, you're going to die. You do not survive by yourself in nature. You will die, right? Our survival comes from being part of a group. And the way evolution reinforces adaptive behaviors is to make them feel good, right? Eating food when you're hungry feels good. That's how Darwin got humans to do it, right? Sex feels good, that, et cetera, right? So being in a close group in adverse circumstances feels good. And that's adaptive. So what I realized is that modern society, this is what tribe's about. Modern society has become so affluent, so safe, so mechanized, so technology heavy, that it allows people, it gives them the opportunity to live lives that are almost completely independent of any small group, any meaningful group, which is
terrible.
Right. I mean, it's a blessing in many ways, but it's also in human terms a great, great loss. And then when you collapse society, what happens? The Blitz in London, right? People are sleeping shoulder to shoulder in the tube stations. It was basically Restrepo, right? The British authorities were worried that there would be mass psychiatric casualties during the German bombings of London. What happened was when the bombing started, admissions to psych wards went down because, as they said, all the chronic neurotics of peacetime suddenly had an important job, right? They were running through the rubble, pulling people out of the rubble. They were driving ambulances. And so what I realized is we need to be needed by a group. And if we're not, we're at risk of depression, anxiety, suicide, everything else. So and I'll end with this. Ironically, people miss some of the worst times in their life. The blackout, the hurricane, the Blitz of London, the siege of Sarajevo. Outside Sarajevo, there's a graffiti that says, things were better when they were bad. Talking about the siege.
My God.
The suicide, depression, the rates are much higher in affluent society than in poor society. right? I mean, they've done studies of this. The World Health Organization actually did a global study of depression and suicide. And what they found was a correlation of those two things, not with poverty, but with affluence. And I believe that it's because of the individual isolated lives that affluence permits.
There has to be some very negative aspects of the tribe too, right? I mean, when the number of people who are in Poland or in what used to be East Germany, who have these ideas that, oh, I miss those days, as you were just saying, they're not days to be missed. I mean, they're driving nice cars that don't break down on the side of the road with their two-stroke engines. And then tribalism can be a very, very dangerous idea that we are part of a tribe, whether it's, Hutus and Tutsis, or the obsession with identity in this country, which I think was like quite splintering for the social fabric.
Yeah, I mean, lots of very, very powerful human desires and preferences and tastes can. Sorry, I'm just getting over my children's cold. There's lots of things that are very important in terms of evolution, very powerful forces in human life that can be very dangerous. For example, the sex drive, horribly misused, right? Aggression keeps us safe. Mm-hmm. It also is a terrible thing, right? So if someone breaks into your home at 3 a.m. and you don't have the capacity for aggression, your family might be dead, right? It's an adaptive thing. That doesn't mean that there is no toxic expression of aggression or sexuality or tribalism. Yeah. So yes, you're right. In modern society,
it can be,
yes, but that.
No, and by the way, my sexuality is incredibly toxic. I just want to acknowledge this now.
The audience
send
knows,
me an email.
I guess Sebastian.
I understand my toxicity. I'm not going to respond.
But we're talking about a human norm, and the human norm is that you live in close proximity and interdependence with a finite group of people that you more or less know, even whether you like them or not depends. But you know them, you trust them. And as one of the guys in the platoon said, Sebastian, it's amazing. There's guys in this platoon who straight up hate each other, but we would all die for each other. Right? That was the human norm for 200,000 years. And then suddenly it wasn't. Of course we're sad. Of course we're anxious. Of course we feel unfulfilled. We don't have that kind of relationship with virtually anyone that we know that we don't share blood with.
And that little, I think that gets back to kind of some of your strange career choices, like life choices. But like,
by the way, who's the most successful person at this table?
No, I mean,
it ain't me, babe.
He sets up a couple of points in here. It's like this: the road taken, the road not taken, and he's like, "I was a kind of a pussy." He doesn't say that. I'm saying that for
he
him.
will literally crush you right after.
I know.
Go ahead.
But I didn't.
If he stops coughing, he will rip your fucking head off.
I didn't do this totally insane thing. I just did this half insane thing. I left part of me behind over here. But like you did a lot of pulse quickenings. In your life. And part of that is kind of to replicate some of those like ancient senses, I think, as part of that. I wanted to make sure I asked you one question about the same quote I read about your dad being scared of the looking up at the heavens, because it's related to your own kind of like being worried about stuff. And it's related most importantly to why I don't take drugs, which is like, I like the wall. The wall's right there.
By the way, can I just interject something? Don't take those drugs. Like, don't take the ones that make you think the wall's melting. Take the ones that make you like a little
run into the wall.
I mean, he's doing it now.
Run through the wall.
He's doing it now.
Or
it's too late.
Blow up the boat that you're on from Venezuela.
It's too late
you're full
to
of.
start cocaine.
No, it's fine.
And Thor.
It's never too late.
Thor Halvorson told me that I'm supporting Maduro if I do that. And I don't want to do that because
if you
Thor
can source,
never.
I have
has
ethically
taken,
sourced cocaine.
Yeah, ethical cocaine. No, like the idea that, I mean, part of this, what makes it so moving is that you're sort of talking about those electrons that are simultaneously in two different places, that it's inexplicable. And that maybe what we understand about consciousness in the universe is kind of inexplicable. So how about like being all right with that?
And certainly in its infancy. So, yeah.
And in its infancy. And, this is kind of why I stopped taking drugs, which I never really started, is that like it went straight to like, oh yeah, that wall on reality, that sort of predictability around you, nah.
Right. Yeah.
Nah, you just like reach right through and get your dad. And I didn't even know your dad, so it would have been like super awkward. But like it's not comfortable, is it? To imagine that it's on some level really liberating. It's very beautiful. There's something about like like you talk a lot about how people have this sense of expansiveness in these near-death experiences, like when they feel like at great like elevation and peace, and just like it's wonderful actually, which is not exactly what you experience yourself, but like it's a common thing. But also kind of like the world in this sort of narrow parameter. I mastered it, I think, enough, and I'm a little bit worried about like that wall's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, look, to function as a species, as an individual, the world needs some continuity that we can count on. So, like challenging that through drugs, it makes the survival task harder, but it does something that's quite important, which is it gives humans at least the illusion, if not maybe some actual insight into the nature of existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
How does that not terrify you? Because you expressed terror, as part of this. Like you've lost faith in the reality of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, what I realized was that terror and reverence are two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
Wow.
And if you're not sufficiently terrified, you're not getting it. You're not getting how fragile, how miraculous this life is. And if you're not sufficiently reverent, you're not likewise. You don't realize how lucky you are. Like, I mean, and you can't be reverent without the terror, and you can't be terrified without reverence. I mean, to me, they're like totally intertwined. And so, do you want to blow your mind and see the true nature of existence? Well, maybe not this morning. I got some stuff to do. but as a general endeavor in one's life, like, listen, we're all going to die. We're going to find out, right? And if the shamans and the seekers and the seers can get a glimpse of the actual essence of existence while we're still alive to make use of it, that might not be such a bad idea. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but that's what shamans are for, right? That's what the prophets and the seekers and the seers, that's what they're for. They're people who have designated themselves as someone who will go beyond to check it out, right? And that was what, when this nurse said to me, think about it as something sacred. I mean, I don't know what she meant, but the meaning I took from what she said was something along those lines. You went ahead of all of us and you saw something and you came back. What do you have to say? Because we're all going there.
And it's this.
Yeah.
Does it become less sacred if she has a Boston accent, by the way?
That was tough for me.
It's really tough.
That was tough.
How attractive is she?
By the way, I just want you to know that there's a mass whole thing. That was tough because she's like, Sebastian, it's fucking sacred,
it's
dude.
freaking sacred.
I swear to God. Fucking Wade Boggs in 1986. You're like, geez, this was amazing for a minute.
Right.
I know we have to get out of here soon. I
Like
want
now.
to. Yeah, I know. I want to impose on you just a little bit more. Probably because of what you said, Matt. No, it'll be a little bit more. It's not a lot. I do think what I was inching towards before, when I was talking about the kind of dominant secular perspective, like enlightened people who insist like there's no meaning. There's something about, like, Carl Sagan wrote this great book, The Demon Haunted World, which I've read multiple times and has greatly enriched my life. I also wonder if there isn't a kind of overcorrection that happens where everything becomes kind of just stale and sanitized. And I do think that there's something about re-enchanting the world that we actually live in every day, and doing that absent any kind of superstitious nonsense. Like, to simply acknowledge the statistical improbability of our existence in the cosmos, the strangeness of having all of these cosmic variables that actually amount to stars being able to form. Like, there's something about it that is just potently mysterious in this way that if you lean in and are paying attention, I think it makes it really hard to even have those bad days not be just a little bit brighter. So I think that there is something to, I'm not necessarily saying you need to take the LSD or anything like that, but you might want to. There's something,
real drug user.
I've never tried LSD.
Yeah. Pretty clear.
You get mad when I
I'm
say
actually
the blacks,
interested
but somehow the LSD is okay.
I'm just saying there's something about the mystery that merits our consideration. And I think in a world where we imagine we've explained all of the hard things already, like that is disadvantageous. I think that is as harmful as essentially being completely tribeless, not having any sort of connection to other people. I do want to commend Tribe to People as much as all of the other works that we've talked about today. I found it to be a really rich, interesting perspective on actually the current moment. There's something you say towards the end of the book about just the legions of people who do these really hard, difficult, dangerous jobs that our world depends upon, that are as dangerous, if not more dangerous in some instances, as serving in the military. And we thank those people for their service while ignoring these other people completely. In fact, like almost taking an effort to ignore the fact that they're there making the world that we live in possible. Yeah. So I found the whole thing just incredibly rich, and just want to thank you for your work. If you have any parting thoughts, I'm very interested. One thing I'd love to have you do is just like, what is the thread through your work? What connects all of these disparate projects to one another? Why are you the guy that has to write about the perfect storm and these servicemen, and also the fear of death?
You know, I wrote The Perfect Storm because I had a dangerous job. I was a climber for tree companies. I got hurt doing it. I hit my leg with a chainsaw, tore up my leg, and it sort of woke me up to the idea that this nation depends on a lot of dangerous work, and the people that do it are often not acknowledged and rarely paid well, right? And that got me into the topic of dangerous work and commercial fishing, and that was the first book. And it was a kind of social consciousness about, hey, listen, you all put gas in your damn car. No one knows an oil worker. You all eat vegetables. No one knows a farmer. You all live in houses made of wood. No one knows a logger. All this stuff is happening. Let's stop for a moment and appreciate that, right? And so, I don't know if there's a common thread to all my work, other than I'm trying to understand life and our society a little bit better, because I think it'll help people live a little better, right? Like on just some basic level, and that kind of understanding of, look, we need community. I hate the word community, right? It's a dull word. Tribe's a much better word. We need each other. Let's put it that way. We need each other.